In today's video, I'm actually going to cover my food photography workflow from start to finish, all the way from an initial client contact through to image delivery. Now, this is my 14th year working as a paid food photographer, so I'd like to think that I've got my workflow down to a T, where I'm super fast, efficient, and get my clients the results they want. So if you want to find out what this workflow looks like and you want to emulate it, let's jump straight in. So the pre-shoot phase begins either when a client gets in touch with me or I find a client through cold outreach. Now, whichever way the client gets in touch, the first thing I want to do is either set up a Zoom call or send them a detailed questionnaire via email to get as much information out of them as possible. The information that I gather on this discovery call will not only help me to build this bespoke quotation for the client, but also help me during the shoot as well as post-production. Now, in this questionnaire or Zoom call, I try and gather as much information as possible. And some of the questions that I'm actually asking the client include, how many final shots do they need or deliverables? Where will these images be used? Are they for social media or a website banner, or perhaps they're appearing on a billboard? What kind of budget does the client have for this project? Do they have a mood board or even some sort of direction for the photo shoot, such as what kind of lighting do they want to use, or what kind of propping do they have in mind? What's the main purpose for this shoot or these images? Is it to launch a new product? Is it to garner brand awareness? Or is it more for the purposes of making more sales? Now, these are the kind of questions that will help me put together a bespoke quotation for the client. So once I've put together this quotation based on the client discovery call, I have a pre-made template that I actually use for the quotation, and I send this quotation together with a personalized Loom video in an email. From here, the client either accepts and we move forward by getting the client to sign a contract as well as making a deposit. Now, once this is out of the way, based on the client's mood board and budget and whether this includes a stylist or not, arrangements are generally done for things such as lighting, propping, and food styling. Now, since I'm the photographer and I'm generally in charge of lighting, I always leave anything to do with propping and ingredients to a stylist. So my main focus is lighting. Now, even for larger commercial shoots where I'm actually working for clients such as KFC and Subway, I don't actually do any light testing or recce's anymore because I feel like I have a really good understanding of lighting and what modifiers I need on set to create whatever style of lighting I want. I almost exclusively use artificial lighting for my food photography, regardless of who the client is, as I have so much more control over my creativity as well as the consistency of my images. So based on the mood board that has been agreed with the client, I'll then source the best lights and the best modifiers that I want to take with me on the shoot. Now, if artificial lighting is something that you want to incorporate into your own workflow, then I have a free masterclass that's going to be super helpful for you to figure out what's the best light for you based on your food photography needs, based on your budget and the amount of space you have. I'm also going to be showing you how to make your artificial lighting look as natural as possible, as well as spill the tea on the only 3 steps you need to master lighting. So if this is something you're interested in, I suggest checking out the link for the free masterclass in the description box below. So one day before the shoot, I then ensure I have all my equipment packed up, my batteries are charged, whether that's for my lights or for my cameras, and I actually also have a checklist for all the equipment that I need to take on set. A day before the shoot, I also ensure a copy of the final shot list and mood board is available to everybody who's attending the shoot. So that would be myself, the food stylist, a lighting assistant, or anyone from the client side that's actually present at the shoot. So that's kind of the main things that I worry about in terms of what happens before the actual shoot takes place. Now, on the actual shoot day, the first thing I'm going to do is set up my workspace and my lighting. I always have the mood board and shot list handy and refer to it throughout the day to ensure that we're actually going through the shot list in a timely manner. We're going to finish on time. We're going to make sure we get through the shot list. And I'm also constantly collaborating with the food stylist, with the chef, as well as the marketing manager that's on set to make sure that the shoot actually goes as smoothly as possible. Now, regardless of where I'm shooting, whether it's a studio location, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's even a toilet, there are 2 things that are non-negotiable, actually 3 things. Number 1, I'm always going to shoot tethered into Capture One. Number 2, I always shoot on a tripod. And number 3, I always shoot with artificial lighting. I feel like if any of these 3 things are missing, it's like I'm missing a limb on a shoot. Now, since I'm shooting tethered as part of my workflow, I like to get approvals from the client on set, whether they're actually present on set with me or if they're working remotely. Now, Capture One has the ability for you to share your whole session, including all the images taken on set in real time with the client, which makes getting approvals and working with virtual clients so much easier. Now, on the shoot day, whilst tethering, I also like to add minor adjustments to my raw files straight away whilst I'm tethering. So both me and the client can already see the creative direction of the editing and what the final image will look like. Throughout the day, I'll also be using live view mode to ensure that our compositions are built as intentionally and as quickly as possible. So this is a feature in Capture One that's super handy for the stylist to see exactly what they're doing in real time. As we're going through the shot list, I flag the final images using a red filter, and then by the end of the day, I will move all the images that have been tagged red into the selects folder, ready to be edited the next day. So essentially, this is kind of my culling process that I do on set, so that when I come to editing the next day, I'm not spending hours and hours going through all the final images once again and not having to send a contact list to the client to start making their selects and wasting more time. I actually like to do that on set whilst I'm tethered, whilst we're going through the shot list if possible. So the next day when it's time to edit, this is where our post-shoot or post-production phase starts. And this usually begins with me editing all the selects from the previous day's shoot that have been flagged red. Now, I usually edit straight away in Capture One, and then I save the files both as TIFFs and JPEGs, ready to be sent to the client. Now, a common question that I get asked repeatedly is, how do I send the images to the clients? In all honesty, I use something very simple. I either upload the final images to my Google Drive and then send the link to the client. I've also used WeTransfer links in the past, and I've also used Dropbox. So I'm not really using any complicated third-party websites or softwares besides what I've already mentioned, as this works perfectly for me. Now at this stage, I'll also make a copy of the final session on an external hard drive and also save another version to cloud as well. Once I've double checked that both of these extra copies have been made, saved, all the files are there, I then usually delete the session from the hard drive of my Mac. Now, as part of my post-production checklist, I then send a personalized email to the client with links to those final images. Any final housekeeping, such as payments, are also covered at this stage. And whether the payment is made before image delivery or after is very much dependent on who the client is and if I've worked with them before. Now, this is a really zoomed out bird's eye view because there's a lot of micro steps that I haven't mentioned due to time. So as an example, in between when a client inquiry comes in to scheduling a discovery call with that client, I actually have another process that I follow to make sure I've researched that prospective client so that I'm completely prepared before actually speaking to that client. Now, another micro step would be after the actual discovery call is to ensure that any external team members, such as a food stylist, a retoucher, or a lighting assistant, are actually available to work on the project, as well as gathering their quotations. Then, as part of the post-shoot workflow, there are follow-up emails after the final images are delivered to collect testimonials, or perhaps down the line to collect tear sheets that I can then use in my portfolio to source other clients. You also then want to keep track of any licensing deadlines and offer any further renewal to the clients that actually have licensing with you. So I cover all of these in a lot more depth inside my paid program, Food Photography Bootcamp. Now, this program teaches you not only how to take stunning food photos, but also make money from food photography, market your business, and find consistent clients. So if this is something that you like the sound of, then I've linked a masterclass below that will invite you into the program if you think you'd be a good fit for that. So make sure you sign up to that free class using the link in the description box below. I'll catch you in the next video next week.